The alarm bells rang through the bridge of the UES Defender as Captain Jake Morrison rushed to his command chair. His coffee spilled across the metal floor as the ship shook from another emergency stop. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan was already at her station, her fingers dancing across the communication panel. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal," Kate said, her voice tight with concern. "It's not from any human colony. The translation software is working on it now." Jake wiped coffee from his uniform and sat down. After 15 years in the Earth fleet, he had heard many distress calls. Most were ships with broken engines or colonies running low on supplies. This felt different. The signal was weak and filled with static, but there was something desperate about it. "Put it through the speakers," Jake ordered. The bridge filled with strange sounds, clicks, whistles, and what sounded like crying. Then the translation computer began working, turning the alien sounds into words that made Jake's blood run cold. "Please, anyone who can hear this message, we are the Cathara Consortium. Our worlds are dying. A terrible sickness spreads through. Our people, our doctors cannot stop it. We have tried everything. Our children are becoming like empty shells. They do not speak, they do not eat. They just stare at nothing until they die." The voice paused, and Jake could hear what sounded like sobbing. "We know humans are skilled in medicine. We have heard stories. We offer everything we have. Our technology, our trade routes, our friendship. We only ask for doctors and medical supplies. Please help us. We do not have much time left." The message repeated twice more before cutting to static. The bridge was silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Jake looked around at his crew. They all had the same expression he felt on his own face. This was not a simple rescue mission. "Kate, how far are we from their territory?" Jake asked. "About 3 days at maximum speed, Captain." "But sir, we should report this to Fleet Command first." "This sounds like it could be a trap." Jake nodded. Kate was right to be careful. Pirates sometimes used fake distress calls to lure ships into ambushes. But something about this message felt real. The pain in the alien's voice was hard to fake. "Send the message to Admiral Lisa Carter at Fleet Command. Tell her we need orders," Jake said. "But keep us moving toward their space. If this is real, every hour we wait means more people die." 3 hours later, Jake sat in his ready room, watching Admiral Carter's face on the video screen. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes showed she had been working late again. Running the Earth fleet was never easy, but lately it seemed harder than usual. "Jake, I've listened to that message 5 times, Lisa said. "Our intelligence? People think it's real. The Cathara Consortium is a group of 4 different alien species. They control important trade routes between the inner and outer systems." "What about this sickness they mentioned?" Jake asked. Lisa's expression became grim. "That's where things get complicated. Our spies in the area report something called the Gray Death. It started on their outer colonies about 6 months ago. Victims lose their minds in days. They become like walking corpses until they die." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "That sounds like a weapon, not a natural disease." "That's what we think too. Intelligence suggests the Zephyrian Empire is behind it. They've been expanding into Cathara space for years. This plague clears out planets without damaging the infrastructure. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed anything that got in their way. If they were using biological weapons, the situation was much worse than a simple medical emergency." "So what are our orders, Admiral?" Jake asked. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was hard. "The Cathara are asking for doctors and medical supplies. We're going to give them exactly what they need." "Nice. Are we sending them medical ships from Sector 7? "No, Jake. We're sending you and your battle group. The U.S. Vengeance and U.S. Liberty are already moving to meet you. Colonel Beth Adams is bringing a full Marine unit." Jake was confused. "Admiral, they asked for medical help, not a military force." "Won't that scare them?" Lisa smiled. But it was not a happy smile. "Jake, these aliens think like most species in the galaxy. They see a disease and want to treat the symptoms. But humans learned something important during our history. Sometimes, the only way to cure a plague is to kill what's causing it. The truth began to dawn on Jake. This was not going to be a simple medical mission. The Earth fleet was planning something much bigger. The Zephyrians won't stop with the Cathera, Lisa continued. If they perfect this bioweapon, our colonies could be next. We need to end this threat now before it spreads. What about Dr. Alex Turner and his medical team? They're coming too. We'll cure the victims of this plague, but we're also going to make sure it never happens again. The Cathera asked for medical aid, and that's exactly what they're getting. Human style? Jake understood now. The Earth fleet was not just responding to a distress call, they were going to war. But it would be a war fought like a medical operation, precise, careful, and designed to eliminate the disease at its source. Long do we have? Jake asked. Intelligence reports suggest the Cathara have maybe 2 weeks before their government collapses completely. After that, the Zephyrians will move in to claim the empty worlds. We'll be there in time, Jake promised. After the call ended, Jake sat alone in his ready room. Outside his window, stars streaked past as the Defender rushed toward the Cathara territories. Soon, 3 human battleships would arrive in alien space. The Cathara expected doctors and medical supplies. Instead, they were getting the full attention of the Earth fleet. Jake smiled grimly. The aliens were about to learn that when humans offered medical aid, they meant it. They would cure the plague and save the innocent. But they would also make sure that no one could threaten those people ever again. The hunt for the real disease was about to begin. Prime Minister Veltaire of the Cathara Consortium stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above, Thyros Prime. His forearms were pressed against the transparent metal wall as he watched the empty space where the human medical ships should appear. Around him, dozens of his people worked frantically to prepare for the arrival of their saviors. Minister, the medical facilities are ready, said Chief Medical Officer Zixara, her blue skin pale with exhaustion. We have cleared 3 landing zones for their hospital ships. The research labs are prepared for their medical teams. Veltar nodded without taking his eyes off the stars. It had been 2 days since they received confirmation that humans were coming to help. 2 days while more of his people fell victim to the Gray Death. His own youngest daughter was showing early signs of the disease. She had stopped talking yesterday. How many more today? Veltar asked quietly. 17,000 across all colonies, Zixara replied. The disease is spreading faster now. We estimate we have less than 10 days before our government structures completely collapse. A soft chime filled the observation deck. The sensor operator, a young Cathara named Dexron, looked up from his station with excitement. Ships dropping out of hyperspace, he announced. 3 large vessels approaching. Veltar felt hope surge through his chest. Finally, the humans had arrived. He turned to Zixara with the first smile he had worn in weeks. Alert all medical teams. Prepare to coordinate with the human doctors. But as the ships came closer, something felt wrong. These were not the white hospital ships with red crosses that the Cathara had expected. These were dark gray vessels, long and angular, bristling with weapon systems that even Veltar could recognize, Minister Dexron said, his voice uncertain. These appear to be warships, very large warships. The lead ship was massive, easily twice the size of any Cathara vessel. Along its hull, Veltar could see the words U.S. Defender painted in white letters. Behind it came 2 more ships of similar size, the U.S. Vengeance and U.S. Liberty. Fear began to replace hope in Veltar's chest. Had they made a terrible mistake? Were the humans here to conquer rather than heal? Sir, we're receiving a communication. From the lead ship, Dexron reported. Put it through, Veltar ordered, though his voice shook slightly. The image of a human male appeared on the main screen. He had short brown hair and wore a dark blue uniform with gold stripes on the shoulders. His face was serious but not unfriendly. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the U.S. Defender. We received your distress call regarding a medical emergency. We are here to provide assistance. Veltar stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. Captain Morrison, I am Prime Minister Veltar. We are grateful for your response, but we were expecting medical ships. These appeared to be military vessels. Captain, Morrison's expression did not change. Prime Minister, we are indeed here to provide medical assistance. However, our intelligence indicates that your plague is not a natural disease. It is a biological weapon deployed by the Zephyrian Empire. The words hit Veltar like a physical blow. They had suspected this, but hoped they were wrong. To hear it confirmed by the humans made it real in a way that terrified him. If this is true, Veltar said, then medical treatment alone will not be enough. Exactly, Morrison replied. We have brought medical teams to treat your people. Yeah. But we have also brought the tools necessary to eliminate the source of the disease. We don't just treat symptoms, Prime Minister. We cure the problem. More ships began appearing in the space around Thyros Prime. Smaller vessels, but still clearly military. Destroyers, carriers, and what looked like transport ships filled with soldiers rather than doctors. Zixara moved close to Veltar. Minister, perhaps we should ask them to explain their intentions more clearly. Veltar nodded and turned back to the screen. Captain Morrison, we asked for medical aid. We appreciate your help, but we are a peaceful people. Do not want to become involved in a war. Morrison's expression softened slightly. Prime Minister, you are already involved in a war. The Zephyrians attacked your people with a biological weapon. They are killing your children while you watch. We're here to make sure they never do it again. Before Veltar could respond, another voice came through the communication system. This one belonged to a human female. Prime Minister Veltar, this is Dr. Alex Turner. I am leading the medical team that will work to cure your people. We are already preparing treatments based on the data you provided. My teams will begin treating patients within hours of landing. Relief flooded through Veltar. At least there were actual doctors coming. However, Dr. Turner continued, I must be honest with you. This biological weapon is designed to spread rapidly and resist treatment. The only way to truly save your people is to prevent future attacks. That requires military action against the source. A new voice joined the conversation. Prime Minister, this is Colonel Beth Adams, commanding the Marine Expeditionary Force. My people will be working closely with the medical teams. We provide security and conduct operations to eliminate bioweapon facilities. Veltar looked around the observation deck. His people were staring at the screens with a mixture of hope and fear. They had called for doctors and received an invasion force. But maybe that was exactly what they needed. Captain Morrison, Veltar said finally, we will cooperate with your mission. But please understand, we have never dealt with anything like this before. Neither had we once, Morrison replied. But humans learned something important in our history. Sometimes healing requires fighting. Sometimes the only way to save lives is to take them from those who threaten the innocent. As the human fleet moved into position around Thyros Prime, Veltar realized that everything was about to change. The Cathara had asked for medical aid, and the humans were providing it. But they were also providing something the Cathara had. Never expected a chance to eliminate the threat forever. The first human shuttles began launching from the warships. They carried both doctors and soldiers, medical supplies, and weapons. The Cathara were about to learn what human medicine really meant. It meant healing the victims and destroying the disease at its source. Dr. Alex Turner had been working for 18 straight hours in the converted medical facility on Thyros Prime. Around him, dozens of human medics moved between beds, where Cathara victims of the Grey Death lay in various stages of the disease. The smell of antiseptic and alien medicine filled the air. Doctor, we have good news on bed 7, called Nurse Amy Rogers from across the room. The patient is responding to the treatment. Her awareness levels are improving. Alex smiled as he walked over to examine the young Cathara female. Her blue skin had regained some of its natural color, and her large eyes were tracking movement for the first time in days. Her father, Veltar Saad Kexman, stood beside the bed with tears streaming down his face. She spoke my name, Kexman, whispered. For 3 days, she looked through me like I was not there. Now she spoke my name. Alex checked the patient's vital signs on his portable scanner. The human-designed treatment was working better than he had hoped. But even as he celebrated this small victory, he knew the real battle was happening somewhere else. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan walked into the medical bay wearing full combat gear. Her rifle was slung across her back, and her uniform showed signs of recent action. She moved to where Alex was working and spoke quietly. "Doctor, we need to talk. We found something you should see." Alex followed Kate outside the medical facility to where Captain Morrison was waiting beside a military transport vehicle. The captain looked grim as he gestured for Alex to get in. "We captured a Zephyrian research station this morning," Morrison explained as they drove through the streets of the Cathera capital. "What we found there changes everything." The transport stopped at a heavily guarded building that had been converted into a human command center. Inside, Alex saw Marine Corps medic Danny Price examining what looked like alien laboratory equipment. Danny's uniform was dirty from combat, but he worked with the same careful precision he used when treating patients. "Doc, you need to see this," Danny said, pointing to a containment unit filled with gray liquid. "This is how they make the plague. But it's not just one disease. It's dozens of different bioweapons all combined into one." Alex studied the equipment with growing horror. The Zephyrians had not just created a plague, they'd created a weapon that could be modified to target any species in the galaxy. The Grey Death attacking the Cathera was just one version of something much worse. "Captain, this means they could create versions that target humans," Alex said, "or any other species they want to conquer." Morrison nodded grimly. "That's why we can't just cure the current outbreak. We have to make sure they never get the chance to use this again." On the other side of the room, Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Kate Sullivan was working at a computer terminal. She had connected alien data storage devices to human systems and was translating the information. "I've found their production facilities," Kate announced. 17 research stations and 3 major manufacturing plants spread across 6 star systems. They've been preparing for biological warfare on a massive scale. Alex felt sick as he realized the scope of the threat. The Cathera plague was not an isolated attack. It was a test run for something that could destroy entire civilizations. "What's our response?" Alex asked. Captain Morrison walked to a large display screen that showed a map of local space. Red dots marked Zephyrian facilities, while blue dots showed human ship positions. "We're going to perform surgery," Morrison said. "Very precise surgery. We're going to cut out every piece of this bioweapon program and make sure it can never grow back." Over the next few hours, Alex watched as the human military machine began to move. The U.S. Vengeance and its escort ships jumped to hyperspace, heading for the nearest Zephyrian research facility. The UES Liberty moved to intercept supply ships carrying bioweapon materials between planets, but the humans did not just attack blindly. Every strike was planned like a medical procedure. They identified the most critical facilities first, then moved to cut off supply lines and communication networks. Each target was chosen to cause maximum damage to the bioweapon program while minimizing civilian casualties. Danny Price returned from another mission, this time carrying data chips recovered from a destroyed Zephyrian laboratory. "Doc, we found something else," Danny said, his face serious. "They have samples of human DNA. They were working on a version of the Grey Death designed specifically for us." Alex felt cold fear run through his body. The Zephyrians had been planning to attack Earth colonies next. The Cathera distress call had probably saved millions of human lives by revealing the threat before it could be used. "How close were they to finishing it?" Alex asked. "According to their research notes, maybe 6 months," Danny replied. "Not anymore. We destroyed their main genetics lab this morning." As night fell on Thyros Prime, Alex stood outside the medical facility and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human warships were systematically destroying the infrastructure of biological warfare. They were treating the Zephyrian bioweapon program like a cancer, cutting it out piece by piece to prevent it from spreading. Inside the medical facility, more Cathera patients were recovering from the Grey Death. The human treatments were working so well that Alex expected to have all current victims cured within a week. But the real cure was happening in space. Where human weapons were eliminating the source of future outbreaks, Veltar approached Alex as he stood watching the stars. The Cathara Prime Minister looked tired but hopeful for the first time since. The humans had arrived. "Dr. Turner, I am beginning to understand your people's approach to medicine," Veltar said. "You heal the patient, but you also eliminate what made them sick." Alex nodded. "On Earth, we learned that some diseases require more than just treatment. Sometimes you have to destroy what causes them. And if you had not come when you did," Alex thought about the research data they had recovered. The Zephyrians had been preparing biological weapons targeting dozens of different species. The Gray. Death was just the beginning. Then, in 6 months, it would have been human colonies sending distress calls, Alex said quietly. And there might not have been anyone left to answer them. General Krexthal of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, watching the tactical display with growing anger. Red markers across the screen showed destroyed facilities. Each marker represented months of research and millions of credits lost to human attacks. "How many facilities have we lost?" Krexthal demanded, his scaled face twisted with rage. 14 research stations and 2 manufacturing plants," replied his intelligence officer. "The humans are targeting our bioweapon infrastructure with surgical precision. They know exactly what to hit and when." Krexthal slammed his clawed fist on the command console. The Cathara were supposed to be dead by now, their worlds empty and ready for colonization. Instead, somehow the humans had appeared and were systematically destroying years of careful planning. "Send the entire 4th Fleet to Thyros Prime," Krexthal ordered. "We will crush these humans and finish what we started with the Cathara. Ready all bioweapon reserves for immediate deployment." Meanwhile, on Thyros Prime, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the command center, studying intelligence reports. Few days had gone better than expected. Human strike teams had destroyed most of the Zephyrian bioweapon facilities with minimal losses. The plague victims were recovering rapidly under Dr. Turner's care, but Morrison knew the Zephyrians would not give up easily. They had invested too much in their biological warfare program to abandon it without a fight. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting a large fleet moving toward us," reported Lieutenant Kate Sullivan. "Looks like the Zephyrians are coming." "In force?" Morrison smiled grimly. This was what he had been waiting for. The surgical strikes had been the first part of the cure. Now came the second part, eliminating the source of the disease permanently. "Signal Admiral Carter. Tell her the patient is ready for major surgery." High above Thyros Prime, space began to shimmer as ships dropped out of hyperspace. But these were not the Zephyrian vessels that General Krexthal expected to see. Instead, 2 massive human battleships appeared, the UES Constitution and the UES Freedom. They had been hiding behind the planet's moon, waiting for this moment. Admiral Lisa Carter commanded the operation from the bridge of the Constitution. Around her, the most advanced warship in the human fleet hummed with power. Everything that had happened so far had been preparation for this battle. "All ships. This is Admiral Carter," she announced over the fleet communication system. "The Zephyrians are bringing their entire bioweapon arsenal to finish what they started. We're going to perform the final operation to cure this disease." The Zephyrian fleet appeared at the edge of the system like a plague of metal locusts. Over 100 ships of various sizes, all armed with conventional weapons and biological warfare systems. General Krexthal intended to destroy the humans and then deploy enough bioweapons to sterilize every planet in Cathara space. But the humans had been preparing for this moment. Since they first received the distress call, every ship position, every weapon system, every tactical move had been planned like a medical procedure. "Zephyrian fleet, this is Admiral Carter of the human fleet," Lisa announced on an open channel. "You have used biological weapons against innocent civilians. You are a disease that threatens all life in this galaxy. We are here to cure that disease." General Krexthal's response was predictable. "Humans, you have interfered with Zephyrian expansion for the last time. We will destroy you and claim these worlds as our own." The battle began with the Zephyrians launching their first wave of attacks. But the human fleet did not respond the way most species would. Instead of meeting force with force, they moved with the precision of surgeons. Commander Steve Parker, led his fighter squadron in a strike against the Zephyrian flagship. His pilots moved like scalpels, cutting through enemy defenses to reach critical systems. Each attack was designed to disable rather than destroy. To capture bioweapon samples and intelligence data, the UES Defender coordinated the fleet's movements. Like a doctor directing an operation, Captain Morrison watched as human ships systematically isolated and neutralized Zephyrian vessels. They were not just winning a battle, they were performing an autopsy on the enemy's bioweapon program. "Captain, we're detecting bioweapon deployment from the enemy fleet," reported Kate Sullivan. "They're releasing plague containers toward the planet." Morrison had expected this. The Zephyrians would try to use their weapons as a last resort when they realized they were losing the conventional battle. "Activate the medical countermeasures," Morrison ordered. Hidden among the human fleet were specialized ships that looked like ordinary cargo vessels, but they were actually mobile laboratories, equipped with the treatments Dr. Turner had developed. As the Zephyrian bioweapons fell toward Thyros Prime, the human ships released clouds of neutralizing agents that destroyed the plague organisms before they could reach the planet's surface. On the surface of Thyros Prime, Dr. Alex Turner watched the battle through the medical facility's observation windows. Explosions lit up the sky as human and Zephyrian ships fought above the planet, but he was not worried. The human fleet was not just fighting a battle, they were performing the final surgery needed to cure the galaxy of the Zephyrian bioweapon threat. "Doctor, our patients are asking, what is happening?" said Nurse Amy Rogers. Alex smiled as he watched another Zephyrian ship surrender rather than be destroyed. "We're finishing the treatment. The disease that made them sick is being eliminated." At its source, the battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Zephyrian Fourth Fleet was either destroyed or captured. General Krextel's flagship drifted powerless in space. Human teams had captured samples of every bioweapon in the Zephyrian arsenal. Dr. Turner would use them to develop treatments and vaccines that would protect all species in the galaxy from future biological attacks. The cure was almost complete. 2 weeks after the battle, Prime Minister Veltar stood in the same observation deck where he had first watched the human ships arrive. But everything had changed. The space around Thyros Prime now buzzed with activity as human and Cathara ships worked together. Construction crews were building a massive space station that would serve as both a medical facility and a military base. Dr. Alex Turner walked beside Veltar, carrying a datapad filled with medical reports. The human doctor looked tired but satisfied. Behind them, Chief Medical Officer Zixara reviewed the final statistics of their joint medical effort. "The last Gray Death patient was declared fully cured this morning," Alex announced. "Every single victim has recovered completely. The bioweapon has been eliminated from your population." Veltar felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he had carried for months. His own daughter was among those who had been cured. She was back to her normal, energetic self, asking endless questions about humans and their strange way of helping people. "But that is not the most important news," Alex continued. "We have developed a universal vaccine using the bioweapon samples we captured. No species in this galaxy will ever again be vulnerable to Zephyrian biological warfare. From the prisoner holding cells on the captured Zephyrian flagship, General Krextel had provided information about other bioweapon programs. Not willingly, but human interrogation specialists had methods of extracting information that the Zephyrians had never encountered before. Every secret laboratory, every research facility, every hidden bioweapon cache had been revealed. Captain Jake Morrison joined them on the observation deck, still wearing his uniform but looking more relaxed than he had since arriving in Kitharus space. In his hand, he carried a communication device that had been buzzing with messages from across the galaxy. "The cleanup operation is complete," Morrison reported. "The last Zephyrian bioweapon facility was destroyed yesterday." Marine Corps medic Danny Price led the team that neutralized their final research station. "We recovered enough data to create treatments for bioweapons they had not even finished developing yet." Veltar shook his head in amazement. "In 2 weeks, you have done what we thought was impossible. You have not only cured our people but eliminated the threat to everyone else." "That's what medical aid means to humans," Morrison replied. "Don't just treat the symptoms. we cure the disease at its source. Admiral Lisa Carter's voice came through Morrison's communication device. Jake, we have another situation developing. The Andromedon Trade Alliance is requesting our assistance. They're dealing with a parasitic species that's taking over their colonies. Morrison looked at Veltar and Alex. Admiral, we're still setting up the medical station here. Can we respond to another emergency? That's exactly why we're building the station, came Admiral Carter's reply. From now on, human medical aid will be permanently available in this sector. But I need the Defender and its crew for the Andromedon situation. Veltar stepped forward. Captain Morrison, if you are going to help others the way you helped us, then you have our full support. The Cathara Consortium wishes to join your medical alliance. Medical alliance? Morrison asked, confused. Alex Turner smiled as he understood. What Veltar was suggesting, Prime Minister, are you proposing that we formalize this arrangement? Yes, Veltar said firmly. The galaxy needs what you humans call medical aid. Other species think like we used to think. When we see a problem, we try to treat it or live with it. Humans see a problem and eliminate it completely. Over the following days, the concept of the Human Medical Alliance began to take shape. The Cathara provided the administrative structure and diplomatic connections. The humans provided the medical expertise and military capability to eliminate threats permanently. The new space station above, Thyros Prime, became the first medical command center. It was staffed equally by doctors and marines, scientists and soldiers. The message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity would answer calls for medical aid. But their definition of healing included eliminating anything that threatened innocent life. Dr. Turner established medical research facilities that worked on cures for diseases while also developing countermeasures against biological weapons. Marine units trained alongside alien security forces, teaching them that sometimes the best medicine was preventing the disease from spreading in the first place. Intelligence. Officer Lieutenant Kate Sullivan set up monitoring systems that watched for signs of biological warfare, parasitic infestations, or any other threats that required the human approach to medical intervention. As Captain Morrison was prepared to depart for the Andromedan territories, Veltar presented him with a gift. It was a small crystal pendant that contained the DNA patterns of every species in the Cathara Consortium. This is our trust in you, Veltar explained. You have shown us that true healing sometimes requires fighting. Take this knowledge and use it to protect others as you protected us. Morrison accepted the gift with the solemnity it deserved. We will not let you down, Prime Minister. If anyone ever threatens the Cathara again, they will face the full response of the Human Medical Alliance. The used Defender departed Cathara space 3 days later, but it was not alone. 2 Cathara ships accompanied it, carrying their own medical teams and security forces. The Alliance was already growing. Behind them, the new Medical Command Center. Buzzed with activity, requests for assistance were arriving from across the galaxy. Species that had heard about the human approach to medical aid were reaching out, asking for help with problems they had thought unsolvable. Some requested help with plagues. Others wanted assistance with invasive species or hostile parasites. A few asked for help dealing with governments that used starvation as a weapon against their own people. The humans accepted every request with the understanding that their help would be thorough and permanent. They would heal the victims, eliminate the source of suffering, and make sure the problem could never happen again. The galaxy was learning that when humans offered medical aid, they meant it in the most complete way possible. They would cure the patient and kill the disease, no matter what form that disease took. The age of human medicine had begun.